just spreading falsehoods, lying to the people and creating confusion among the people. The self-hate among us has got to stop. How long are we going to continue to self-hate? How long are we going to continue to have this crab mentality where we constantly pull each other down? Mr. Jason Chapman, yeah, try sending somebody to Burkina Faso for 2 weeks and give them $500. Good luck. I don't need to scam $500 from anybody. That's an insult. But yeah, small-minded people, you think 500 is a lot of money, go to Burkina Faso with $500. We have had some of the most stupid calls from people. Is President Traore going to give us houses? Oh, I thought my $365 was going to buy my ticket to go to Burkina Faso. Really? When the ambassador addressed us and explained what had happened, the decision from the parliament, someone had the audacity to call Ms. Ola and said, oh, are you sure that was the real ambassador of Burkina Faso to the US? My people, we need to grow up. Are we serious about what we need to do as a people? Or are we going to continue to be used as instruments of our own self-destruction? My fellow African diaspora, my name is Dr. Ambassador Arikana Chiyombori-Kwao. All of this past week, many of you, ADDI members and Friends of Africa, have sent me videos that were done by 2 YouTubers. One is called Go Black to Africa, and the other one is called Kengande. Both videos were saying defamatory things and falsehoods about myself and ADDI. I felt for the benefit of those of you who were not able to attend all the Zoom conferences that we held beginning last year, where we discussed the issue of citizenship for Burkina Faso. As most of you may know, last year, a group of us, we started with over 300 people, but only about 130 were able to make it. The others, they chickened out. They were afraid of the negative news about Burkina Faso. I knew better. Having been the AU ambassador to the United States, I traveled around Africa, and I have been to countries that we were told they were war-torn countries. So as such, I also knew that Burkina Faso was not what we were being told. So the renegades, 130 of us, we went to Burkina Faso. We spent 10 days in Burkina Faso. We drove by road from Ouagadougou to Bobo Dioulasso. All those areas that people said they were infested with terrorists, we would stop at various places and have lunch and or sometimes just to stretch our legs. Very safe trip between Ouagadougou and Bobo Dioulasso. We spent 3 days in Bobo Dioulasso. Again, back on the road, we came back and we drove back another 5 to 8 hours because we were stopping. It's generally a 5-hour journey, but because we were stopping, it took a little bit longer. Spent a few more days in Ouagadougou, had an absolute wonderful time. Many of us who were traveling, they did videos. They talked about where they were in Burkina Faso and that it was a very safe place. We came back home. And after we came back home, during the trip, we had 4 of our members who had done their DNA. And their DNA said they were from Burkina Faso. They had wanted to know if they could be allowed citizenship because of their DNA. I started advocating for these 4 people to receive their citizenship. I advocated to the foreign minister. I brought the attention to any minister that I came across and let them know, and I introduced them to these 4. We were able to make sure that they were highlighted and they were also acknowledged for being Burkinabe citizens who happened to have been born in the United States as descendants of the formerly enslaved. Upon our return, about a month or so later, there was a letter that came specifically asking, as a follow-up to my request for those 4 Burkinabes, to say, if you have a list of any of your members who would like to become citizen of Burkina Faso, send us the list. We did not expect a large number because of what we had experienced when we went to Burkina. We didn't think too many people would be interested in Burkinabe citizenship. But to our surprise, we thought, well, 50 people would be more than enough. Before we know it, we got to 100. And the requests kept coming. We reached to the embassy, we said, well, the numbers are going up. They said, just send us the list, whatever number you have. In the end, the people who stood up and said they wanted to become citizens of Burkina, there were over 1,000 people. Now, that's not to say all of them were going to be able to afford the train tickets and the overall cost of going to Burkina Faso. Traveling to Africa is not cheap. The airline alone is over $1,000, depending on where you are coming from. So while we knew we had over 1,000 people, we're also very much aware that not everybody was going to be able to afford the trip, particularly the airline ticket. Be it as it may, we started mobilizing African diaspora beginning end of last year. We had Zooms where we had people from the embassy come talk to us about this decision from the president and the offer that we had been given as ADDI members. The embassy addressed us, starting with the acting ambassador, Dr. Buddha, who addressed us while he was the acting ambassador, followed by, when the new ambassador came in, His Excellency, General Kasum Kalibali. He also came after he took over and addressed us, and we talked about the citizenship program. People who had questions, they asked their questions, and so we continued to work on our plan. Initially, we didn't have a date because the government was working on a date that they felt would be most appropriate. And then eventually, they gave us a date in November because there is a program on the 1st, I believe, and 2nd of November that they want us to be part of. So that's how the date was set for those the week before and the week after, time around those 3 days where the government is having its program that they wanted the diaspora to participate. Again, we continued to have Zooms. We would update the ADDI members. We would share with them the information. We would talk about Burkina Faso. And so it was. We were planning on going to Burkina Faso to get citizenship. People were expected to send in their clearance, security clearance. People were supposed to bring in their passports and all the necessary documentation that you could use if you're going to be getting citizenship. Now, there are some that never really send in their security clearance, but which is fine. That also lowered the number out of the 1,000. It lowered the number of people who were going to qualify to go to Burkina Faso. And everything was going well until I believe the 26th, Friday the 26th of September, when I got a call from the ambassador saying, Ambassador, I have bad news. The parliament met and they felt that everybody should follow the procedure that the parliament has put together that would include the ADDI. We had thought our program was always a separate one. It was not part of the process the government was going through, but parliament voted to say everybody must follow that procedure. However, they were going to make an exception for ADDI members instead of insisting on the 5-year residence requirement in Burkina. Before you can qualify to apply for citizenship, they were going to allow those on the list to be given the permanent residency. And then once they can show that they have a home or they have started a business, they can also have a short pathway to getting their citizenship. But that was the decision that the parliament had made. It was kind of hard for me initially because everybody was geared up towards going for the citizenship. Even the embassy itself, they were very disappointed because they worked very hard to make this trip a possibility. And so we all got over our initial shock. But slowly as we began to process it and begin to really understand the decision that the parliament made, there is some reasoning behind taking that two-process pathway. But be it as it may, I got the call from the ambassador on a Friday, and I called a meeting with my team on Sunday. We met, and I advised them of what my conversation with the ambassador, and then this decision was made that we must let those on the list know that there has been a change, and it was a parliamentary decision, and that it was completely out of our hands. So we called for a meeting with all the people on the list, and on Monday, we had a meeting in the evening where we updated everyone about the process. People were upset, some of them were crying, and I understand fully because I also had gone through that when I got the news from the ambassador. But be it as it may, this was a parliamentary decision. It is a government, it is a country. They can make their decisions as they see fit. And of course, it's a parliament. It's not one person who is making that decision. So I'm sure there was a vote. Different people had different understandings of what it meant to have the diaspora coming to Burkina Faso. But be it as it may, this is where we are. And the process goes on. We offered everybody that doesn't want to go. Those who have paid their $500 registration fee, they're welcome to have it back. Those who have paid their $1 a day for Africa, which is the $365, we just prorate that and refund you whatever the difference is. And so that process is going on for those who have decided they don't want to go. Then last week, I started getting videos being sent to me. The first one was from Kangande. O'Shea, I think O'Shea Duke Jackson is supposed to be the guy, an African-American who was going on and on about Ambassador Chiyombori is shamming the Black Americans, inviting them to go to the West Country in Africa, Burkina Faso, a country that's riddled with terrorists, and also he doesn't know why everybody is putting Traore on a pedestal. And anyway, he was going to reserve his comments and his feelings about Traore. But he was just dogging me. I was scamming people. Well, for those who are calling $500 scamming you, let me tell you what that $500 covered. And this, we had a Zoom meeting where we broke down what everybody was going to get for the $500. The $500 was going to cover transportation for 2 weeks in Burkina Faso. We have events that we're going to be attending. We have activities throughout the city of Ouagadougou that we're going to be attending. Transportation is needed. And so we have some buses that we have hired that are going to be transporting people. We also, so the $500 is going to cover transportation. Secondly, the transportation, everybody who's attending is going to receive a backpack, a very nice backpack, with President Traore's image on it, the map of Burkina Faso and ADDI. The backpack is also going to have a polo shirt, a t-shirt, actually 2 polo shirts, one white, one red, and a beret and a lanyard. We're also going to cover 2 dinners at a price of $50 per person per dinner. That was budgeted into that 500. We're also going to have entertainment every night with DJs who have to be paid. All that to be in Burkina Faso for 2 weeks and be transported and be entertained for $500. We looked into finding out how much, what is the cheapest you can get transport for in Burkina Faso. We're looking at about $500 a day if you were to rent a car. It's going to be even more if you were to use Uber to get around Burkina Faso. So for 10 days, your $500 is gone. Transport alone. If the truth be told, my team, when they calculated what it would cost to ferry people around and attend all these activities, the conference hall that we're going to be renting is costing a lot of money. We have to buy teas and coffees and water throughout the entire time that we are using the conference center. The speakers have to be paid for, transportation. It's a lot that we're doing, and that $500 is not even covering it. Initially, my team came up with 1,000. And I said, no, guys, that's too much. Let's cut it in half, but let's see if we can fundraise for the difference in order to make it affordable for more people. And now, here we have Mr. O'Shea Duke Jackson, accusing me of scamming Black Americans and also getting them to go to a country that is the worst country in Africa. A country that has a leader who has shown us what it means to stand up and defend your turf. Mr. O'Shea Jackson is calling him the worst leader and the worst country in Africa. I am not scamming anybody. Nobody is forcing anybody to go anywhere. If you don't want to go to Burkina Faso, you don't have to go to Burkina Faso. Yes, we started with citizenship, but the government, the parliament changed their mind. They're a sovereign nation. They're ruling through their parliament. The parliament made the decision, we have to abide by it. This is completely out of ADDI. So for Mr. Jackson to accuse me of scamming Black Americans by taking them home, by paving a way for them to go home. Jews go home to Israel. The Irish go home to Ireland. The Chinese go home to China. The Indians go home to India. The Europeans, they go home to Europe. Where do Black people go? These people, slaves, they were taken out of Africa against their will. Over 400 years, this wrong has not been righted. At what point are we going to anchor the children of Africa and give them a home? Let them behave just like other races. They should be anchored by where they come from. And for Black Americans, it is Africa. Let's go home. Let's go visit Africa. We're not asking you to go live there. We're simply saying there's something anchoring by knowing where you come from. That is all I'm trying to do. And if that's called scamming people, then I'm guilty as charged. But I will not stop, because the children of Africa must go home. And then comes Mr., I don't know his name, but he goes with the YouTube called Going Black to Africa. He claims he met me. I was walking to my seat in a plane coming out of Harare. He happened to have already sat down. He got up, he noticed me, he got up and he introduced himself. And he said something about wanting to interview me, and he gave my VP his card. That was the end of our conversation. But now he tells people he met with me and we had a meeting and we talked about this and we talked about that. How do we have a serious meeting when I'm walking to my seat in the plane? But be it as it may, he calls people up and wants to give people an opportunity to talk about ADDI and Ambassador Arikana. Well, here comes this girl who claimed to be a representative of ADDI in Burkina Faso. She simply paid $1 a day for Africa, $365 in April of this year. When and how she went to Burkina Faso, we do not know. All we know is I also had a lot of videos about her where she was yelling and screaming at somebody, apparently because she had not paid for where she was staying. And the police had to be called, and she was ordered to leave the following morning. That same woman is now claiming that she was a representative of ADDI and that she went to Burkina Faso because of ADDI, and now ADDI has ruined her life. Ow. We didn't even know you went to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso trip for ADDI is not starting until October 26. The first representatives for ADDI, apart from the gentleman, the Burkinabe gentleman who's organizing our activities on the ground, the ADDI members who are leaving for Burkina Faso are leaving on the 19th. There is no ADDI representative in Burkina Faso. So anybody claiming to be an ADDI representative in Burkina Faso, they're lying. And that young woman is one of them. She knows nothing about ADDI. She went to Burkina Faso on her own. But the guy, for going back black to Africa, picks up on her and doesn't do any homework to find out who she is. If you didn't have money, why did you go to Burkina Faso if you can't afford even a place where you're staying? We had reached out to somebody in Burkina Faso to see if ADDI can help you. Why did you go to Burkina Faso if you can't afford it? And Going Black to Africa picks on that one, and what she says, he calls it gospel truth. And here comes a Mr. Jason Brian Chapman. He says he's a magistrate. He knows nothing about ADDI, because if he really cared, he could have attended all the Zooms that we had. When the ambassador, after the ambassador told me about the change of plans, he also offered to come and explain to the diaspora what had happened. Ambassador Kalibuli, he came and addressed us on October 4th and explained the decision that had been made by the parliament. People asked the questions that they had. We had encouraged everybody to send your questions in advance, and the ambassador answered all those questions. This was a decision that I was informed of on the 26th of September. Our pathway was supposed to be a different pathway. And it's still going to be a different pathway, because none of the people who are going to be getting their permanent residency have to stay in Burkina for 5 years before getting the permanent residency. It's still big. And so for Mr. Jason Brian Chapman to come up with all those accusations that I never went to Burkina Faso, that I've never met President Traore, where are you getting that? That you have looked through the internet and you cannot find anywhere a photograph of me. I don't do that. I don't post photographs of the people I meet. Now, people can post photographs of me, but I don't do that. I have 130 people who went with me, who saw me, who were in the room when I addressed President Traore, who were with me when I stood next to President Traore and we did a group picture in front of the palace. And you have the audacity to say I'm lying about going to Burkina Faso. Why would I do that? Furthermore, ADDI is made up of volunteers. Volunteers who have known me since I was at the AU. Volunteers who understand what was done to me. Volunteers who know the truth. One of the volunteers who was at the AU with me, when I was leaving, she said, "Ambassador, you're not leaving me with these evil people. I've seen what they've done to you." I had no business taking any money from AU. AU had no money. I lived in my own house, 10,000 square feet house. AU gave me $3,000 housing allowance. Where would you live in DC for $3,000? When the chairman of the African Union first came to meet with President Trump, the chief of staff was not having challenges getting them on the plane that would have allowed him to come to Washington. And why they were booking his flight 5 days before departure, I do not know. But rather than canceling all the appointments like I was instructed to, I used my connections. And I made the CEO of that airline create 6 seats. And because when they bump people off, you have to immediately pay for that seat. What was I supposed to do on a Saturday morning? The chairman was supposed to arrive the following Wednesday. So what do? I use my own credit card. And I charge airline tickets, business class tickets for 6 people. And when I do that, and I save the day, Come time to reclaim my money. Oh, you didn't follow procurement procedures. You should have submitted a request. I, who saved the day, you want to blame me. So the people who know me saw all those things happen. We're going to have a Miss AU, a big event in Washington. I left a check for the deposit to be taken to the hotel. I'm on a mission in South America. And they intentionally don't drop off the check for the deposit. So the event gets cancelled 3 days before the event. Again, the diaspora hear about it. They're the ones who send me a copy of the letter cancelling the event. I get on the phone, I call the hotel, I put that deposit on my card. They did the same thing at an event in Baltimore. I was in Egypt, again on business meetings. They would always wait when I'm out of the country to sabotage me. But I struggled through all that, and I still would put my own money. And then after I do all that and more, you want to accuse me of taking money from AU? Really? What a joke. There's $1,000, $10,000 that keep coming up. That money never came to AU. Melfoot was part of a fundraising team that for an event that we were going to do at one of the hotels. He lobbied, I think it was Chevron. And Chevron made a donation for $10,000. Because he's the one who lobbied Chevron, they sent the money to him. Melfoot of Constituency for Africa. I'm going to call his name because he's going around lying about me as well. And the money was supposed to go to the hotel because AU could not receive any money. If we received any money, it has to go to Addis. The entire time I was at the AU, we never received a penny from anyone. If anyone put any money into AU, it was me. Well, Melfoot claims that $10,000 came after the event. So we told him we can't receive that money, but rather, when we have another event, we'll have you pay the vendor. When we had that next event, we called Mr. Melfoot. Mr. Foot said, oh, I spent the money on my event. Then when the staff wanting to just create problems for me, they started talking about all this 10,000 and Melfoot. We don't know what happened to the 10,000. And yet they were the ones communicating with Melfoot in writing, requesting that money to be paid to the vendor. When the issue of that 10,000 came up, my sister Gloria Hendon in Washington went to Melfoot and said, Melfoot, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You're getting the ambassador to be blamed for the 10,000 that you took, that you spent on your own event. You need to say something. He refused. I had no business to steal money from AU. I gave money to AU. I'm a medical doctor, for heaven's sake. I can make money. And how dare you, Mr. Jason Brian Chapman, you don't know me from Adam, you don't know ADDI, you don't know where we have been and where we have come from, and for us to be where we are today with nothing but volunteers, and you have the audacity to say we're scamming people. A group of volunteers, we meet and spend as much time as we do as volunteers not being paid so we can scam people? What an insult. If you wanted to know the truth, you could have just called me. Yeah, Ambassador, can you talk? Can we talk? I could have talked to you. I could have spoken to you. But instead, it's more fun just spreading falsehoods, lying to the people and creating confusion among the people. The self-hate among us has got to stop. How long are we going to continue to self-hate? How long are we going to continue to have this crab mentality where we constantly pull each other down? Mr. Jason Chapman, yeah, try sending somebody to Burkina Faso for 2 weeks and give them $500. Good luck. I don't need to scam $500 from anybody. That's an insult. But yeah, small-minded people, you think 500 is a lot of money, go to Burkina Faso with $500. We have had some of the most stupid calls from people. Is President Traore going to give us houses? Oh, I thought my $365 was going to buy my ticket to go to Burkina Faso. Really? When the ambassador addressed us and explained what had happened, the decision from the parliament, someone had the audacity to call Ms. Ola and said, oh, are you sure that was the real ambassador of Burkina Faso to the US? My people, we need to grow up. Are we serious about what we need to do as a people? Or are we going to continue to be used as instruments of our own self-destruction? Mr. Jackson, you are encouraging African Americans not to go to Africa. You live in Uganda yourself. There's so many negative things said about Uganda and President Museveni. That didn't stop you from going to Africa. So why are you encouraging others why are you trying to discourage others from going to Africa? The guy for Go Black to Africa, you live in Tanzania. So why are you discouraging others from going to Africa? You are the hypocrites. In the olden days during slavery, you would be the Sambos. People who are not understanding and appreciating a good thing when it's being done. I don't need to steal from anyone. I don't need to scam anyone. This is about going home. This is about righting a wrong. If you don't want to go to Africa, you don't have to. But the funny thing is, you two are already in Africa. So why are you discouraging others from going to Africa? Shame on you. Shame on you, Mr. O'Shea Duke Jackson. Shame on you, Jason Bryan Chapman. And Mr. Chapman, you had the audacity to sit in your office, in the magistrate's office, and doing such videos and interviews. Is that part of your job description? And you want to talk about people who are corrupt. You are using taxpayers' money to spread lies from your magistrate's office, where you are supposed to be doing the people's business, and instead you are lying from that office. Shame on you too. I'm sorry for being angry. I'm sorry for being upset, because what's happening here is spreading falsehoods and discouraging people from creating the unity that we deserve. This moment is calling for unity among us as Black people. And if you don't want to be part of it, you don't have to be part of it. There will always be Sambos among us. There will always be some who are willing to be used as instruments of our own self-destruction. We ask all of you to step aside and let those who need to put the spirits of our ancestors back to rest in Africa, let them complete their journey. We're not asking people to go live in Africa. We're simply saying, recognize Africa as home. Be anchored by knowing that Africa is home and that Africa is calling you home and you are welcome. Be anchored just like the Jews are anchored in Israel. Be anchored just like the Irish are anchored in Ireland. Just like those descendants of Europe are anchored in the various European countries. The Chinese are anchored by knowing that they're from China. The Indians are anchored by knowing they are from India. African Americans, how are you anchored? You have been taught self-hate. You have been taught to denounce Africa, that it is a diseased and dying continent and don't go there. Well, if you don't reconnect with the motherland, then who are you? You are like a ship without an anchor. The wind blows this way, there you go. The wind blows that way, there you go. I'm simply saying, African Americans, you are loved. Africans want you home. Africans are quite surprised that as an American you would want to come home. They find it quite refreshing that their brothers and sisters in the Americas would like to connect with them. They too were lied to, that you don't want to come to Africa. They didn't know that you want to come home to Africa. We're simply retelling our story, correcting the lies that people have been fed. I'm here to tell you that as African Americans, as Afro-Caribbean, as Afro-Latino, you are loved by the Africans, and the Africans want you to come home. You don't have to go and live in Africa, but just connect and be proud to be an African. You are a descendant of some of the most powerful kingdoms. You are inheritors of one of the most amazing continents on earth. Embrace your roots and be anchored. Africa loves you. President Traore is saying, come home. Let's start with permanent residency. And as soon as you can establish yourself in Burkina, either by owning a home or starting a business, you can be on a shortcut pathway to citizenship. It's still a very good opportunity for you to reconnect with home. If you can't go this time, there's always going to be another time. But I can tell you, ADDI people, ADDI volunteers, we are not going to tire. We will continue to push forward. We went to Burkina Faso last year. Every one of us, we paid our own ticket. We paid our own accommodation. We paid for everything ourselves. No one funded us. Everybody funded themselves. We will continue to do that. And we will not tire. So the likes of the Going Black to Africa, the likes of Kinganda, whatever your YouTube is called, Mr. Osei Duke Jackson, the likes of Jason Brian Chapman, and that crazy woman out of Ouagadougou, Taylor Renee, Alicia Williams Fields, I don't know how you end up with 3 last names. You all can continue spreading your lies. They won't take you far. But we will continue to soldier on as volunteers of ADDI. I thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. And any of you who are interested in getting some of copies of the videos that we did since last year talking about this citizenship program, now permanent residency program, you're welcome to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to send you a copy. We'll be happy to send you a copy of the last video when the ambassador, Burkina Faso ambassador to the US, explained to you the change that had happened and answered all the questions. I don't know what else you want, but it is what it is. This is the reality. This is the truth. Now you have heard it from the horse's mouth, and if you want to continue to spread your lies, go on. But the truth will stand. And this is the truth that I just told you. Anything else that anybody is spreading out there is a damn lie. Do not listen to them. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see some of you in Ouagadougou, where we are saying all roads lead to Ouagadougou. We're going to go there to support an African leader who is doing exactly what we have wanted in an African man. Powerful, fearless, ready to lead his people and putting his people first. That is the leadership we want. And that leadership is coming out of Burkina Faso. If you're not ready to stand up and support the Sahel nations, that's okay. We understand that. But the few that get it, we're going to Burkina Faso. And we're going to accept the permanent residency. And we're going to do what we can to make sure that Burkina Faso and the Sahel nations continue to succeed like they must for the benefit of not only Africa on the continent, but also Africans outside the continent. And by Africans, I mean all people of African descent. We owe it ourselves to unite. But those who don't see it within yourself to unite, step aside and allow those who wish to unite, allow them to unite and continue the struggle till victory is ours.